Bristol City 1, Birmingham City 0. My name's Simon Brew. This is Thoughts on the Blues. And thankfully, amongst Blues fans, I am a glass half full person, even after that. Fortunately, this is the glass. While you watch the titles, I'm going to make this half full. Cheers. Begging your pardon, a very warm welcome to Thoughts on the Blues. Well, here we are again. Blues went to Bristol City. You know the score. Bristol City 1, Birmingham City 0. In the week where Tom Wagner announced this fabulous sounding 60,000 seater stadium. Imagine 60,000 people crammed in. Quite steep by the sounds of it, all to get the perfect view of us passing the ball across the pitch. It will be amazing to watch. I'm being a tiny bit mean, but still, we've come to the end of a game today. And I'll read you the statistics if you want. As ever, there's only one that matters, but 71.5% possession. That's great. 0.6 expected goals. What is expected goals? 13 shots, a shot on target. No saves made by our keeper. No saves made by the Bristol City keeper. We had 6 corners. We had possession. We had time. We lost. Now, I have a thing. First of all, Bristol City fans who've come along wanting one of those gloat watches again. I've done those before. I completely get it. Congratulations on your win. Now sod off so the rest of us can talk about Blues. So, after the midweek game against Preston, a ground out 1-0 win that was really kind of fought for and really battled for, there was a sense that we'd seen kind of another version of Blues that we needed to see. And I must admit, when I saw the team selection for the game against Bristol City, I was just like, oh, okay, so a couple of changes in the lineup. Bright Asai Samuel clearly didn't come out of the last game particularly well, in that he appears to be injured. Iwata back in defence. Nyman back alongside Clara, central defenders. Great. Cochrane had a really good game against Preston. But the interesting bit in this team selection were the sitting midfielders. So we've got used to Chris Davies's favourite, which is, understandably so, Peck and Iwata as the sitting midfielders. So there are 3 more advanced midfielders, a striker ahead. This was the combination today, Leonard and Doyle. Now that's interesting. Now we've seen that the Peck-Iwata duo has been broken up anyway by Iwata moving in to be quite an adequate right back, really. I think I like the fact that he's willing to put crosses in. He's kind of keen to put crosses in. This kind of stuff might actually catch on. I kind of quite like it. So the fact is, out of almost necessity, it's been broken up. But one of the advantages of this is it's brought Mark Leonard back to the fore. And not before time, really, because we judge a lot of players as Blues fans based on like a performance in half an hour they get as a sub, or one game in, one game out. But I think most of us would accept, just in theory, that you really need a run of 3 or 4 games to get the measure of someone. And in the case of Leonard, he's had this run now. I'm really impressed. What I like about Leonard is there's a tenacity to him, a desire to get the ball forward at reasonable pace as well. And also when he does lose the ball, he's really keen to get it back. The small things, right? Alongside Tommy Doyle, I was curious if they'd do the defensive duties, right? Also, it meant we push Peck forward. Now, regular listeners will know I'm far more of a fan of Peck than some of you. I think he's the most graceful player that we've got and looks after the football better than most. Ironically, not today. We'll come to that. But Peck moved forward in that kind of advanced 3 midfield with Roberts back again, Anderson on the other side, playing behind Stansfield as centre forward. That was an interesting, slightly unusual team selection from Chris Davies. The formation, not unusual, 4-2-3-1. And effectively, we were coming up against a team that was playing 4-4-2 for much of it. In fact, for a lot of the game, I was looking at Bristol City's back line. They had 5 in a row. They were playing a very deep and defensive game, hitting us on the counter-attack. Spoilers, Clearly it worked. But still, we had a team selection that was slightly different and interesting. And so, I mean, going into an away game at Bristol City. I mean, first of all, Bristol City, as much as they don't get the headlines, were in the playoffs last season and in playoff positions already this season. 19 points they were up to before this game. They ended this game sat in fourth in the league. I'm a great believer in league tables. Do not lie, especially after 12 games. I mean, they tell you a story, really. We are in 15th. They are in fourth. I don't think that's massively inaccurate either, really. I mean, a couple of foibles perhaps, but probably seems quite an accurate reading of where we are. Even so, I found the first, considering the meltdowns that have been going on online after the result of the game, I found the first 40 minutes of this hugely, hugely positive. So if we sit back to early September, we had that run of 3-4 games where we had one shot on target in those 3-4 games. Now, I accept we only had one shot on target in this game. That ain't good enough. I ain't defending that at all. But we had a really good effort within 53 seconds of this game starting. Patrick Roberts, how much will it cost to sign him up? I would like us to sign him up. As a result of Stansfield doing the high press against the Bristol City defence, Stansfield gets the ball, Roberts gets it, he wants to shoot, bang, just wide of the post. We could have been one up in under a minute. Weeks ago, we were like, where are the shots? And as much as the meltdown continues, there were a lot of shots in this game. Birmingham City had a lot of shots at the Bristol City goal. They were not shots on target. I will be addressing this, but there was an intent to attack. As much as I take the rise about going sideways and stuff like that, I thought we had quite a lot of fast forward passes in, actually. Passes to feet, particularly Leonard and Doyle trying to move the ball up the pitch. And for about 40 minutes of it, it was, I mean, was it just me? I thought it was a joy to watch. I thought we were going to a team who were in the playoffs last season and utterly taking the game to them on their own park. Now, contrasting Preston was a very gritty, ground-out match that Preston put these massive striker up front and quite a physical battle, lots of crosses in and things like that. Bristol City tried to play football. And the thing is, for a while, I was like, it's like watching Birmingham City versus Birmingham City, two slightly different iterations of it. In that, they had similar characteristics. They want to play out from the back. They want to move the ball. They want to, I don't know, that possession sort of mattered. Now, I accept that Gerhard Struber, who looks like that fella out of the TV show Succession, I thought, but I accept that he set up his team to counter-attack, and Chris Davis, to his credit, set up his team more to attack. But still, this was the kind of game that we could have a game of football with, that we could compete. And we were competing, I think. So, the early stages of the game, I mean, the first 5-6 minutes, we're really on it. We're really going for it. Then it's like, you know, that bit where your computer's fallen asleep and you hit the space bar and it suddenly comes back to life. We had a bit of hitting the space bar and Bristol City sort of come back at us a little bit. And then we just marauded through most of the first half. There was a 10-15 minute passage of the first half where, and this is lost because of the result, and perhaps it should be lost because of the result. It's a results game. I am denying that. But there was a 10-15 minute passage. I thought our football was glorious. Really, really good. We were moving forward. We looked in control. We had possession, 71.5% possession. We had the possession. We looked to be using it to go forward. Most of this was in the first half. We were attacking them. Stansfield, was making run after run after run after run. And imagine what would happen if we'd found him with the ball a bit more often. And so I thought we were, I never think this. You should never think this watching the Blues. I thought we were comfortable. What I didn't think we were was careful, actually. I think this is a mildly recurring theme, that that's come up a bit more this season. That I think if you want to kind of play the possession football that Chris Davies wants to play, you have to look after the football. You have to make sure your pass goes to the player that you're passing to. Now, in any game, one or two are going to go astray. And, we sat through era after era where Blues would put a pass across the pitch. It would roll completely out. Maxine Collin would shake his head and just like, what the hell's going on? I mean, we sat through that. Now, passing's a lot more accurate here, but I thought we were like 5% less careful with the football than we were against Preston. In the end, it cost us as well. I don't think Bristol City were massively careful with the football either. But what it meant is like play just can't. I mean, all these transitions of play and posh words that like commentators stuff use. The bottom line was possession was being given away cheaply a little too often. We also had the moments where we were getting the ball forward, particularly to Keshi Anderson. I am the Keshi Anderson fan club. I'm a huge fan of what he brings to the team, of how direct he wants to go, how much he wants to drive forward. Thought it was his worst game of the season. That I thought his intent was there, but there are just a couple of times where he just lost the ball or just didn't quite trap it, or just the end result was just less than we're expecting. We got used to really from Keshi Anderson. And so, I mean, that was frustrating because he got into a lot of good positions, the kind of positions where ordinarily on his day, you would have expected the keeper to have had to make a VTech in the Bristol City goal. A keeper named after the games console I bought for my 3-year-old was just not troubled. And I would have expected him, had Anderson been on song, to have been making a lot of saves. I mean, as it was on the other wing, Roberts just looks electric. And I love Roberts and Anderson on either side. I think it's I mean, it just looks dangerous. There was a moment actually where in this game where Peck was hugging the left touchline and he put in, and again, he's come in for some criticism after this match. For one reason I understand, but there's a back heel he puts in that plays our guys straight through. He's careful with the football when he's on the wing and he's asked to put the ball forward. He's doing it. And I remain convinced that Peck is absolutely a team player, that he plays the way in any given match that Chris Davies wants him to play, because he's the kind of person you can fundamentally, usually, I'm coming to it, trust with the football. God, I'm coming to it. How about a bit more of this? Don't drink that stuff, kids. It's terrible. It's only supposed to be for me. So, Bristol City also playing from the back and looked quite weak doing it. I mean, the number of times they looked like they were having a minor panic. Anytime Jay Stansfield walked up towards them as they tried to play out from the back, I just thought, surely it's a matter of time here. Surely it's a matter of time. They kind of bolted into a 4-4-2 for most of it, I think. I mean, there are better people to analyse the passages of play and the setup. I keep recommending Ryan Deeney's blogs. If you search him, I just think he breaks down the games in far more intelligent ways than I ever could. I'm just a boring bloke who just pays to watch football. And in this case, I saw a Bristol City team that was just putting players behind the ball and inviting us to attack as if they were the away team, we were the home team. An attack we did. We looked really solid with Newman and Clara at the back. I mean, that has to be the combination going forward. We were probing. We had lots in common with Bristol City, really. They were our kind of team. They played, fast balls. They probed. They played crap passes. They do. I mean, I always think that one-touch passes look really, really good until they don't go to one of your players. So sometimes I'm all right with a two-touch pass if it just increases the number of times it goes to one of our people. I quite like to see that. But there was a point where Roberts puts. Do you remember Roberts put this amazing ball into Anderson, and it was just sublime. Anderson doesn't quite make the most of it, and you're just kind of like, we've sat through this before. We are swarming all over them, and if you'd have stopped the game at 35 minutes and just like if it was a boxing bout and you'd ask someone to adjudicate it on points, It was not even close, I don't think. Even accounting for the moment where James Beadle had a wobble. He certainly didn't have a save to make, really. He had a wobble, though, when a high cross went to our 9-foot goalkeeper, just spills it and fumbles. It's the first time I've seen him do that. So, give him a little bit of a pass. So apart from that, we keep probing, we keep going forward. I come back to Anderson and one slight problem with his game. And I kind of say this very much as still, even after today, the Keshi Anderson fan club. I think he's a long way from Jack Grealish. He's nowhere in that league as well, at all, in terms of him doing this. I think he goes down a little too obviously. Now, that's not to say, if you go back to the midweek game at Preston, he went down and I do still think it should have been a penalty. There were hands on his back. He had a right to go down. But I think from a referee's perspective, they look at Keshi Anderson and they see, like, as soon as a hand is on him, he's down and he's not getting the free kicks. Now, it's a little bit harsh on him. Granted, I think he should get more decisions than he does. But if you make what looks like not a lot of effort to stay on your feet, the referees ultimately aren't really going to be on your side. I thought the referee today was pretty decent. I mean, I ended the last video just like half willing, let's not talk about the referee again. And we've had a couple of right champions this season, haven't we? I thought he was pretty decent. I thought there was one moment where Armstrong led on the ball that led to a fracas and he books Iwata and their player. I was just like, what's Iwata done wrong there? Apart from that, there's not too much to grumble about. I don't think he influenced the result. I think we influenced the result. But again, that stuff we can talk about. It felt like this kind of Birmingham versus Birmingham. I thought our build-up work we were outplaying them. Our build-up work was superb. We were having efforts, but the efforts were, Bristol City will be thrilled with this, I think. The efforts, the shots we were taking were mainly long shots, really. Not from a zillion miles away, but long enough that would give VTech, the game's console in goal, a chance to stop them. Clara fires one over the bar, for instance. Peck's back heel to set Anderson in as well, and then Anderson slips. You then got Bristol City's Scott Twine, just kind of booked for doing a bit of a Jack Robinson. But unlike Jack Robinson, gobbing off at the referee, he only did it once, so he stayed on the pitch. And then you just I'm just watching this game. I'm thinking Leonard is looking weird to say this, as one of the signings of the season, just because I think we underplayed him last season, and we underplayed him for a reason, because our midfield was just bubbling. And, we've still got the point where we've got Willem Willemsen to come back into that midfield as well. So more options are coming Chris Davis's way. But I think Mark Leonard has done him proud, actually, these last 2-3 games. And then, after we have this best 10-15 minute spell of the season, oh God, and we press them and we push them, I was just like, oh, lose. This is an absolute joy to watch. We have one loose pass, which I think was from Peck. I think it was from Peck. I've not watched the highlights. I've not gone back over it. And then one ball. Boom! They're straight through it. A one-on-one race between Armstrong and Nyman. Now, Nyman's, I think, is a really good player. He's a centre-back. He ain't going to win the sprint. He doesn't win the sprint. Terrific finish from a player who hasn't scored in about 64 years, according to every message board I've been reading since. And Bristol City on 42 minutes, in an act of daylight robbery that's quite something, find themselves one up. In the end, they justify getting points out of the game. I'm not completely one-eyed on this, but at 42 minutes, the people more shocked than the Birmingham fans in the ground that Bristol City were ahead, I would imagine, were the Bristol City fans, the Bristol City staff, the Bristol City manager, anyone within 10 miles of Bristol is just like, how the hell have they done that? But that is why they're fourth in the league and we're not. And I think we have to respect that. And I think we have to understand that. And it's telling that at half time, it's no wonder it was them that made the substitution. It wasn't us. It's no wonder that Chris Davis says, do more of what you're doing, because we're getting there. We've just got to be clinical in the final third. And if there's one word that was missing from Birmingham's performance today, and it's a bit Groundhog Day, isn't it? It's ruthless. Where's the ruthlessness in the final third? Where is it? We make all these chances. We were flashing crosses across the box. There were balls going in. And just like, how many saves did Vitek have to make? How many times was he scrambling across his box to get a ball and just palm something round the post? It's just like, it just wasn't happening, was it? A couple of crosses, he caught quite happily, and he watched the ball sail over his bar several times, and you're just like, yeah, yeah. And so we come to the second half, and Davis understandably doesn't make immediate changes. I completely get that. I thought we were playing really well, and I thought we deserved to be leading the game. And then after 10 minutes of the second half, it's clear that it's just like it ain't gonna happen. We've sat and watched enough of these games now to know that it ain't going to happen. And, the expected goals column of no importance whatsoever might be creeping up, but nobody ever won I mean, where did expected goals come from? Nobody ever won a football match with an expected goals. You won them with away goals and penalty shootouts in the past, but I like actual goals. Actual goals. Imagine those. Not expected goals. And, I don't want moral victories. I want victories. I don't want moral goals. I want goals. I want things that actually affect the outcome of games and result in points in the time. Go back to Preston. How hard did we work to ground that goal out? Set piece. Imagine that. And then we fought and fought and fought. Now, in fairness to our defence, I thought on the whole, apart from one moment where Cochrane just kind of let Twine, I think, have a shot across the goal, we restricted Bristol City, the home team, to 2 decent opportunities. The problem was the buggers went and scored one of them. That's quite annoying. And, respect, you win football matches by putting the ball in the net. And so we get about 15 minutes into the second half. It seems to take ages for these substitutions to take place. I swear the players started getting ready 5 minutes before they were on the park. But I mean, we went for a triple substitution. So I understood Damari Gray coming on for Keshi Anderson. Gray, Chris Davies said in the post-match interview, wasn't ready to start. He'd been carrying a knock. They were hoping to get half an hour. Anderson hadn't been as clinical as Anderson can be. Completely get that. No problem at all. Patrick Roberts, I mean, it's a bit disappointing to see him hooked after an hour. I don't know if there's something else going on that means he can't do 90 minutes or something like that. And my heart didn't beat faster when I saw Lewis Kumas was coming on for him. But I did think Lewis Kumas was really good. I'll come to that shortly. Jay Stansfield coming off is an absolute puzzle and a half for me. A real puzzle and a half. Now, I have no problem with Kyogo coming on. Logical. Stansfield, our top goal scorer, the frustrated as he was that he kept making runs and no one really found him. I just wanted him on the park. The chances of something happening in front of goal seem to me to be doubled when Jay Stansfield is on the park. You look at the way that the goals that he's got this season, and they're kind of snipers goals, really, aren't they? Snipers and follow-ups and rebounds and just like Stansfield goals. And so for the last half hour, he's off the park. Now, of the 3 players who came on, the one I thought would, Gray, Kumas, Kyogo, the one I thought would influence the game the least would be Kumas. But I thought Kumas, and I was relatively critical of him once or twice in the past, thought it was his best half hour for us. I thought he looked dangerous. He's the big problem's been with him, really, and he's only 19. So, I am someone older than him. I don't want to be someone on the internet hurling bricks at someone younger and just being that. These are human beings at the end of it all. And so I've always been a little bit reticent. But in this particular game, I thought he looked dangerous. I thought he carried a threat. I don't think he's got the confidence in the same way Damari Gray has to take 2 players on. But when he's got 1 player to take on, I think he's more and more inclined to go for it. I thought he flashed over a couple of good balls as well. And I thought he became something of a live wire. Now, we'd taken Roberts off. We'd taken Stansfield off. So those would ordinarily be the people I would imagine would have sparked us into some kind of extra life. But I thought Kumas put in a good shift here. The problem we had was we were putting the shots in, but it's almost as if on the training ground. Do you remember that game? I think it was Hull, was it? Was it a season or two ago where it was delayed or there was a problem because there were the wrong size goals? I swear on the Blues training ground there are the wrong size goals, that they're like twice the height of normal goals. I mean, Leonard one flew over. Peck had one, flew over. Clara had one, flew. I mean, did Doyle have one? I think he had one that flew over. And you're looking at Leonard in particular it was set up for a really good effort. He was in a great position. If the shot had gone low, it would have caused Vitek a problem. But 3 or 4 times we flashed shots where we had a tiny bit more time over the bar. There was just a tiny bit of panic about it. I get there's panic when you're 1-0 down, but also panic doesn't win you a football match. I'm a little bit of composure, and I'll go for it again. Ruthlessness, far better chance of winning a football match with that, I think. And so we just kept getting into these positions. Almost, it's not that we were scared to put the ball in the box. We actually had good positions to take long shots from and weren't taking them. Now, the best chance we had was Kumas cutting in, ball really fast, dangerous cross. Gray nips in, just slightly. I mean, he got his foot to it. Keeper, no chance, over the bar. That was great. I mean, more stuff like, and when that happened, I just thought, oh, we're going to do this. Great, let's do more of that. We didn't do more of that, did we? Ugh. Oh, God, I needed up. And so you get to 15 minutes to go. Off comes Doyle, on comes Dykes. And this is where I sort of had the problem. And so by the end, Dutch, back on the bench after injury, was on for Nyman as well. This is where I had the problem. We looked more dangerous against Bristol City when we played football against them. By the time we got into let's put Lyndon Dykes on with 15 minutes to go, our strategy even, God, the wine's good, our strategy, third run at that, started to change. And instead of like playing the football that got us to the edge of the box and then hoping we make a better decision, we started doing we've got a big striker now, let's hit the ball up to them, hope they get the knockdown and get something off it. It wasn't going to work against Bristol City. It didn't work against Bristol City. We troubled them when we played football against them. When we started to do oh no, we're up against it, we've just got to fire the ball in, I thought they were really good. And in fact, as a training exercise in how to stop the cross, there was a period, what was it, from about the 87th minute onward, 85th, 87th minute, we kept going down the lines and trying to find the cross in. And a lot of the criticism's been of we weren't moving it fast enough. In fact, Chris Davies said a bit of this. Weren't moving it fast enough, weren't getting it forward fast enough, weren't clinical enough. But you've got to credit what Bristol City did in the last 10, 15 minutes. They managed it well without a lot of gamesmanship, and they stopped crosses. They knew what we were going to do. And as much as we'd altered plan A little bit by changing the personnel around, and I thought the wildcard move was moving Peck up the park, which I thought worked for good chunks of it. They sort of knew at the point, when you set up and drill a counter-attacking team, once you've got the goal, you are drilled to death on how to defend and hang on to that goal. Look what we did against Preston. Bristol City didn't even let us get the crosses in. And the occasions where we did just slip a ball through, they were dealing with it. And so, I mean, you get to the end of the game. Do you remember that game where Sky put the statistic on the pitch that James Beadle, was it Wrexham the first half? James Beadle, had like more touches than most of the other players on the pitch. In this game, Beadle, I barely really had a thing to do in it, apart from pick the ball out the net once. And then, I mean, Bristol City had that other effort that Twine just fired wide. Apart from that, what had he had to do, really? The fumble, all right, but we dealt with that because the defence looked solid. And I still think the defence looks solid, apart from 2 balls come through midfield and then, I mean, Bristol City are sort of in a position to score. I still maintain we had the better positions for a lot of the game. We lacked the ruthlessness, we lacked the clinical edge, and we lacked what Armstrong had in the end. You've got the ball in that position, sod it, I'm going for goal and putting a shot in. And I think we lost any real chance of that when Stansfield came off. So in terms of where this leaves Chris Davies, Tom Wagner's come out in the middle of the week and backed his manager. I love that. And I don't think it's the dreaded vote of confidence. I think there's a unity in there between the person who owns the club and the person who manages the team. And I do love that. And I think Chris Davies has earned currency. He's got three of his next four games are at home. And I think, I mean, at that point, there might be, if those don't go well, I think the questions are going to be asked in slightly louder voices. Put aside the people who go on the message board straight away and say sack the manager, because there's always someone who says sack the manager early and then they go like a year later, oh, I told you we should sack the manager. It's really easy to say sack the manager. It's harder to say back the manager. And I think there's something in Chris Davies that I just think is 20% more than the results we're getting at the moment. I do believe that. At this point in time, I'm Team Davies, really. But I'm not blind to problems. This is not an unconditional backing. Not like I've got the power to do anything either. Wagner's come out and backed him. And so the aim is still so clear. And as much as we had this open house earlier in the week where Wagner's saying he's comfortable with the team, where they are, the expectation, you can't then reveal a 60,000 stadium and expect us to be fighting to get a goal at Bristol City if you're expecting to, and no disrespect to Bristol City, but if you're expecting to fill a 60,000 stadium, by definition, they'll be expecting to play Liverpool and Man United to fill that ground. They won't be expecting to play League One and Championship teams. I quite enjoy us playing Championship teams. I'd like us in the Premier League and competing, as every team would. So it isn't a slight on Bristol City. It's more here's where the ambition of Birmingham City is, but here's where the team is at the moment. It can't stay there forever. And I do think there is a ruthless edge in the boardroom that there isn't in the top third of the park at the moment. Which brings us on to... So, I mean, the game's over. We lost it. And in truth, when Stansfield went off at 62 minutes, I didn't think we were going to get anywhere. Kyogo coming on, I mean, I think he's worth a chat now. So, accepting we lost the game, congratulations, Bristol City. There we are, still some way away from where we want to be. A lot of our strategy this season, and there's lots of questions asked, has hinged on us getting goals. Inevitably so, right? Last season, as many have pointed out, we had Alfie May, and Alfie May, even when he was on a goal drought, would just busy himself. As Tom Brady said in the documentary, I like his juice. Don't know what that means, but let's just not dig too deep into that. But Alfie May had a positivity and a zip about him, and just the feeling that something might happen. And when he does break his goal drought, look how happy the fans are for him, as well as for the fact that Blues have scored a goal. We signed two strikers in the summer, Marvin Duksh and Kyogo Furuhashi. Two, on paper, upgrades on Alfie May. Alfie May, who's struggling at Huddersfield now. So I'm not suggesting going backwards or anything like that, but I do think it's right to ask questions of where we are, because the assumption, I believe, was that Kyogo, as probably our most expensive close season signing, was going to be the goal person. And we are 12 games into the championship season now. Put aside the cups and stuff like that. 12 games in. Two strikers we signed, Kyogo and Marvin Duksh, have not scored a goal. And as much as Duksh has been battling his injuries, as he was when we signed him, and as much as Kyogo is really unlucky to have had one goal ruled out, and his movement is sublime, their job's to score goals, and they ain't scoring goals. And, I mean, it's almost like kicking a puppy, isn't it? But they're supposed to score goals. And had those two signings clicked already, we wouldn't be in 15th place. You know, if they got, I'm not doing XG or something like that, but if they got just between them 5 goals, imagine the difference that would have made to the team. But they haven't got 5 goals. And Kyogo, a really frustrating striker, arguably the most skillful striker we've had since Christian Benitez, has scored 1 open goal in the League Cup, and that is it. And it ain't good enough, is it? And I love watching him play, but it's not clicked. And I do think the only way it's going to click is if you give a player like that 3-4 matches in the team. I don't know how we accommodate that in the team selection, because I also want Jay Stansfield as centre forward rather than in the three behind. So I think something's got to give. I think something's got to change here. I do think if we keep restricting Kyogo to half an hour or the first hour of matches or something like that, and don't back him over 3 or 4 games, we're going to be in this position in March. Dutch, we saw one terrific game against Swansea and a lot of injuries. I don't know what we've bought. In truth, I see a big physical striker, potentially. The game where he was on fire, I was just like, now I understand why we've got him. But we need to see him over 3-4 games. And at the moment, you've got Stansfield, who is working his backside off as the sole striker who is doing the job of a striker in that. And it's really cruel, but he's scoring goals. He's scoring goals. Last season, goals came from all over the pitch. This season, the majority of them are from Stansfield. The one in midweek was from a centre-back. You look at the people who've scored for us this season, and it ain't a long list, is it? And so, A, that list has to broaden, and B, the people we have signed to score goals can't get to we can't have 2 players get to 12 games in the Championship and not a goal between them, where their job is ultimately to score goals. And I think this is a problem, and I wish I had a nicer spin to put on it. I am genuinely, just winding this up, I am genuinely a glass half full person. I do think that the Blues team we're looking at now is a good team. I think we've got a good squad. I think we've got good players. I think we've got the personnel. But what I, as a Blues fan, am getting slightly fed up of being is the valiant loser. And do you remember you used to watch England games? We'd lose in a penalty shootout, and you'd sit there just like, we were really unlucky, and good old us for trying really hard, and we pushed them and pushed them and pushed them. And then you look over there, and there's another team celebrating. You're just like, wouldn't you like to be that team a bit more often? A bit more often. And we were slightly spoilt with that last season for a whole bunch of reasons that like League One football, etc., etc. But I maintain we could have beaten Bristol City today. That's the frustration. I thought we played well enough to beat them. I congratulate them on their win. This isn't me like hurling abuse at opposition team or anything like that. We just could have beaten them, and we didn't. And we've invested in players who could have beaten them, and we didn't. And now we come to this run of games. And so I think most of us would be happily surprised if we get anything at home away at Middlesbrough. Home to Portsmouth, home to Millwall, no disrespect to those teams. If we are really looking to compete as a Championship team, we've got to be getting results off that. The one thing I'll sign off with, though, is I am seeing people on message boards writing this season off after 12 games. Writing it off. It's just like, we're doomed and blah, 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 blah. We are, bizarrely, this is the Championship, in spite of everything, 4 points off the playoffs. 4 points off the playoffs. We are 6 points off relegation. We can be in a muddle till January and sort it out with recruitment. Kyogo could click in the next 2 games. We could start soaring. We could absolutely collapse. Anyone who's writing this season off already after 12 games, when there are 34 league matches to play, I don't know. I don't get the headspace at all. I get the disappointment. I get the fact that of those 12 games, we've lost 5. But I do see a team here. I do see the sparks. I just wish we were a bit more ruthless. I'm going to go back to my wine now. I've got to finish my glass half full. Here's hoping the next time we meet again, home to Portsmouth, Saturday the 1st of November, things might be a little bit more upbeat.